Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
There's that saying out there, where were you on 9/11? Where were you when JFK was shot? Where were you when we landed on the moon? There's also that, where were you when LinkedIn happened? I remember when 2007, when LinkedIn was coming about, right? I'm getting all these emails from friends saying, hey, be my friend on LinkedIn. They were canned emails. And I have to be honest, I really thought it was like, okay, this is some sort of Ponzi scheme, some sort of MLM. I didn't know what it was. And I'm just deleting. And one afternoon, I was giving a speech to an organization about networking, just talking about whatever. And this woman came up to me afterwards and she goes, well, are you on LinkedIn? And I was just like, well, no, I delete all of those. And so you really, if you're really into networking, you really need to look into LinkedIn. And that was kind of the starting point of, okay, yeah, there's something to this. And, but, as much as that's the case, I feel like I'm learning every day about LinkedIn. Whenever I talk to somebody about LinkedIn, there's something new, there's something changed, something improved, something that another way that somebody's doing it better. And so it's kind of this ongoing education, this ongoing tool that we can utilize to network with, which is a wonderful segue for our guest today, Rhonda Schur. Did I get that right, Rhonda?
You did. Perfect.
All right. I know I'll get this right. She's known as the LinkedIn Diva, and she's the author of 4 books, and she has quite a lot of credentials to her name. I'm going to read these in importance as far as I'm concerned. She's a mother and she's a wife, mentor, business networking expert, speaker connector, and an expert on LinkedIn. But she's dedicated her life, her professional life, to empowering entrepreneurs and business owners to position themselves as the only logical choice for their product or service on LinkedIn, and creating authority and generating endless supply of leads and referrals within that LinkedIn system. And a lot of people looked at LinkedIn as just this box you check. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, but it's not the box you check. It's the box you open and play with the contents almost daily if you can. And that's really what Rhonda's all about. She has a method. It's called the Schur method, SHER, as in her name, but it's a great play on words. And it helps empower you to access your full potential, authority, and income off of the world's biggest professional social media site. And I don't think anything's ever going to rival LinkedIn. Rhonda, how are we doing today?
Awesome. And you did such a great job. That was absolutely perfect. And it's true. I remember, when LinkedIn first did come out, people were confused. And yeah. The real part in the beginning was that's where people went to find jobs. Or if you were an employer, it was where you went to find that new employee. But it's really changed a lot.
Well, I mean, it's no different than Facebook. Facebook was put in place because these guys wanted to meet girls, and they never thought, hey, there's a business application to this as well. But let entrepreneurs get their hands on things. And
the thing that's interesting, Frank, and this is what most people don't realize, when somebody gives a referral to somebody, right? The first thing that, no matter what it's for, maybe it's for a business coach like yourself, right? Or it's for anything. What they do is they go to Google. We all live and die by Google. Well, What happens with that is that if you have a LinkedIn profile, and almost every business professional does, about 70 to 80% of the time, your LinkedIn profile shows up on the first page of Google. Mm-hmm. Now, guess what? People are 2 times more likely to believe what they see on LinkedIn than any other platform at all. So the question really is, how are you showing up on LinkedIn? Are you dressed for the party? Or are you that person that is going to a black tie event, but you're wearing your running clothes? There's a total disconnect between who you are in the world and who you are in your digital footprint on LinkedIn.
And that's a great point. I was talking to someone earlier today about social platforms in general. And I just say, and I know you're just, when you're talking how you show up and how you look, really kind of in a metaphorical sense and not necessarily an actual sense. But if I don't see a picture, I really just pass it over. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's prejudicial, but it's almost like if you haven't taken the time to put something up there, and I don't care if it's your high school senior picture, you're just something.
Well, I totally agree with you. And what's interesting is there's a little glitch in terms of people knowing how to use the privacy settings on LinkedIn. So oftentimes I'll be on a call with somebody and I'll say, I can't see your photo on LinkedIn. And they're like, I have one. Well, you can set your privacy settings so that if you're not connected to somebody, they can't see your photo. Now, the bad news about that is that when you're checking them out and you're not yet connected, you have the impression that you just described, they don't have a photo.
Yeah.
And you're actually 36 times more likely to have somebody send you a message if you do have a photo, and it should be current. A lot of times now, more than ever, you and I have spoken, but we've never met on Zoom, right?
Right.
We've never met in person. Now, wouldn't it be strange if there was a photo of me on my LinkedIn from 20 years ago, and then I jump on Zoom and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's kind of like that date, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, how old is this photo? So it's a professional network. It is the world's largest business networking platform. So have a professional photo, and if you don't want to go out and spend all that money to go get a professional headshot, take one with your phone and then use a free, there's a free website called removebelikeboyglikegirl.com, and it takes out your background. So if you happen to take that picture in front of a beautiful green background or a building, or maybe you're cutting somebody else out of the photo, whatever, just use that. And now you've got a professional photo.
Yeah, again, it's a little bit of effort. It's like when I talk to people and, okay, so you do this, this, and this. Well, that's kind of old. I haven't had a chance to update LinkedIn. Okay. I understand not having time to pick up your room, clean your car, right? I mean, just things like that really kind of take some time. It shouldn't take a whole lot of time, especially when it's something as important as LinkedIn.
Well, and I completely agree. And, the basic things that people do want to take care of, I'm one of those people that believes if you get up in the morning and you make your bed, right, first thing, great, I've accomplished something, right?
Yeah.
I've already started. So every day before I leave the bedroom, the bed is made. So think about your LinkedIn, put a banner on there, even if you don't want to use LinkedIn's, just basic blue green, right? Go to Canva. It's free. Canva. Just go to Canva. If you can't figure out what to do, put a background picture of the city you live in and put your name, your title, and your website or your contact info. It could take you 10 minutes, but it'll make all the difference.
What are some of the big mistakes you see with people out there on LinkedIn? I mean, I know there's lots, and we probably different categories.
The biggest mistakes that I see are, number one, no contact info. Could you imagine that you land on a profile and they don't tell you how to reach them? There is no email, no phone number, no website. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. You need to tell people how to contact you, and then in the about section, have a call to action. What do you want somebody to do? Do you want them to schedule a call with you? Do you want to send them to your landing page? So I would say it's number one, make sure your profile is complete. Go through and fill out the sections. If you don't have a banner, put one up. It doesn't have to be anything super. Think of it like a car. You have a Toyota or you have a Lexus. They're both going to get you from point A to point B. Just doesn't, they'll look a little different, right? The drive might be a little smoother. Make sure, the other mistake that I see is underneath your name, if you don't put a headline, You know what they put there? Your job title, whatever you have as your job title. So if I took a look at yours, you did a great job. Underneath your profile, it says a lifelong student and mentor of professional relationships and networking, avid connector of great people, entrepreneur, speaker, author, podcaster. What it doesn't say is president and founder, because if you didn't put what you put, LinkedIn
Right.
would put president and founder. Well, how many president and founders are there on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, probably anybody who's working for themselves.
Exactly. So the biggest mistake I see is that people don't know what they don't know. And
Yeah.
so put a headline. What is it that when somebody looks at your profile, they're going to keep reading, because they don't want to know your title. They want to know what you can do for them. And then the other thing that I see is, and this is one of my little pet peeves, recommendations. Now, it's at the bottom of the profile. However, they are dated. And so when I look at profiles and I see the last recommendation was from 2010 and we're in 2022, I'm like, I guess they haven't really paid attention to getting them or giving them. So I would encourage people to give recommendations for people that have done really great work. So when we jump off this podcast today, I'm going to go and give you a recommendation because you're a professional, you took the time, and it's going to reflect on the next guest that you might invite to decide whether they're going to say yes or no to being on the podcast. So recommendations are another area. So basically it's make sure you have somebody else look at your profile and give you feedback. And what I like to say to people is, based on looking at my profile, would you still feel comfortable making a referral to me? Because if the answer is no, do one of two things. Fix it up or take it down, because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah. I think the recommendation thing is great advice. Let me put it this way. Some of the things you're saying are very affirming to me. I've done the right things, and some are very indicting. Because and you know what? And again, it's a work in progress, right? I will never have
Always.
LinkedIn totally set. And so I'm not totally ashamed, but it's definitely something I need to do. I've just always been in the mind, okay, I've got enough recommendations. How many, is there is the difference between 550 recommendations and 600? Does it really matter? At some point, nobody's reading these things, but you've made the point that it does matter. It's,
It matters from the standpoint that, number one, they're current. And number two, and you have a lot actually, you don't really need 30 recommendations. You just need, a handful of current ones, but there also should be a balance between the ones that you've received and the ones that you've given. When I look at a profile and I see that somebody has received, say, 20 recommendations and they've given 0, it may not be that that person's not a giver and they're lazy. It may be they just didn't know. So if you make it a habit, every time something great is said about you or somebody says, wow, that was amazing, I say, use these 4 words. Hey, Frank, I need your help. I so appreciate the kind words you said. And I'd love if you would just give me a recommendation on LinkedIn, just saying what you said. And then what I would do is follow up with an email, because people forget, and say, I greatly appreciate, and then just give them the link to be able to do it. And that's how you get those recommendations. You have to ask.
Yeah, no, I think that's well, and I love the notion of make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Providing, because people, hey, it's not just LinkedIn, but hey, would you give me a recommendation on Google, or Google Business or whatever is out there? Okay, where do I go? Because I don't have 30 minutes to try and figure it out. And by the time I figure it out, my creativity is just burnt out and I don't know what to say.
Exactly. And, one of the things that's kind of interesting is when you have a Zoom get to know you call. And I do that a lot, and I teach my clients to do that. And at the end of the call, sometimes what I'll ask is, hey, Frank, what was your biggest takeaway from today's call? And if they're saying that they got something really valuable from you, then what I do is I say, you know what, I would love to be able to use that on my LinkedIn profile. Could you just say that again and I'll record it?
Mm.
And then I have a recording that I can now put on my LinkedIn profile that is this person speaking, saying something nice about me. It's
Wow.
that easy.
I didn't know you could do that. I mean, I think that is super easy.
Yeah, I mean, make sure you get permission.
Sure.
And when you say, well, what's in it? They'll think, well, what's in it for me? Look, you know what? Say your name and say what you do and say, hey, my name is Rhonda Schur. I'm a LinkedIn expert. I just had the most amazing podcast with Frank again. Am I pronouncing it right? Again? Or
Agan.
With Frank Agan. And if you're looking for somebody who's an amazing interviewer who does an incredible podcast, I would highly recommend that you reach out to him to learn how you might be able to be a guest on his show, or perhaps bring him as a guest onto yours. And that's all you have to say. And again, you put that on your LinkedIn profile, and now somebody's edifying you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's right there. And at the end of every time you're interviewing somebody, you ask them, well, what was your biggest takeaway from this? And then you, every time, can get all these people to give you testimonials about what, and then all you have to do is say, you know what, I could really use your help. And that's my favorite expression. And say, well, what do you need? Well, I want to get more people to get exposed to this so we can get people to learn from guests like you. Would you mind sharing this? Put it on your social media, put it out there. If you're sending an email blast to your, in a newsletter, just put a link and let them know that you've been featured. Now what happens? Your subscribership grows and your visibility grows. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's great advice. That's, again, wow. Well, let's talk about your business.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate all the insight but how you work with people. Obviously, well, I guess I'll just leave it, turn it over to you.
Since
Please.
2009, I've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners. I don't work with job hunters. Typically, my ideal client is somebody that is a coach, a real estate professional, a mortgage professional, commercial real estate, attorneys. And they are people that have one of two needs. One is they know they're not showing up on LinkedIn as the professional they are. Or two, they have that same need and they're looking to generate anywhere from 2 to 20 appointments a week. So my program is primarily a done for you. I have you fill out a very comprehensive intake form. And then I'm kind of like the plastic surgeon of LinkedIn. I transform your profile so that you show up as the only logical choice. I include case studies, I include testimonials, everything that you could possibly imagine. And then the second step is I actually have a masterclass, and I call it Posting for Profit. And in this class, it's it's about a little over 5.5 hours of training. I teach you how to post, interact with other people's posts, where to find those posts, and then how to turn those likes and comments, whether they're yours or somebody else's, into appointments without being salesy or sleazy. So my model is really to empower you to get where you want to go in your business. So if you're looking to drive people to a webinar, that's where I'll send you. If you are looking for people to, come to your website, if you want to get an appointment, doesn't really matter. Using LinkedIn and just the power of a post, you can do that. And then the other thing is, many of us are in networking groups. I think that's even where we met, wasn't it?
You came to the networking hub that I do on Wednesday evenings, one Wednesday a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a networking type of event.
Yep.
Well, imagine that you start reaching out to people in the networking organizations that you're in. And you reach out and you basically just say, you know what, I'd love the opportunity to get to know you better. We're both in XYZ group. Here's a link to my calendar. There's almost, if you have a good profile, there's almost, no chance that this person is going to say no. Because we're on LinkedIn for one reason, and that is to grow our relationships. So what I offer for clients are individual as well as groups. So I do a lot with companies. If you have a group of employees and they're all trying to figure out how the heck do I use Sales Navigator? How do I get everybody in my company to look like the professionals they are and not have profiles that are so different that you'd never know they all work for the same company?
Right.
So whether you're an individual or you're a company and you want to demystify LinkedIn and most importantly, monetize it, that's what I do.
Okay. You used a phrase, and I'll paraphrase because I'm not going to get it exactly. Use LinkedIn to build relationships.
Yep.
I mean, I love it. I can't get through a day without 5, 6, 7, 8 people wanting to close a deal. I mean, I haven't met you yet.
Right.
And they want to close a deal.
Yeah, we call that the spraying and praying.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that when you send a connection request to somebody, don't say, I want to add you to my network. Why? I don't know you. Why should I?
Yeah.
What you do say is, Frank, we met at, or I saw you attended XYZ, because a lot of times I'm in these big rooms with people, like Speakers Playhouse, which you may be familiar with, or JV Directory, lots of groups. Saw you attended, didn't get a chance to reach out. However, as I look at your profile, I see we share XYZ, love to connect. Then they realize, oh, wait, this is where they saw me. This is why they should connect. And then you talk about building relationships, right? Well, if all they did was accept and you did nothing, it dies there. What if you then sent a message that says, hey, Frank, thank you so much for accepting my connection request. I like to get to know my connections. I have lots of people that I can refer to. If you're up for it, I'd love to just set up a call. Here's the link. Then you will. Why? Because I'm not trying to sell you. I want to get to know you. I may be able to refer you to somebody. That's how you build relationships. The same way is if we met live. If we met live and in person, and the first thing I said to you is, hey, Frank, you know what? I looked at your LinkedIn profile and you need help. Like, you go, oh, get away from this woman. Like, really? Funny story. Last week, I got a message from somebody wanting to connect with me. And the message said, I noticed that your website, now I told you my website is older than I am, okay? It's pretty old. I'm in the process of creating a new one. I noticed that your website could really use some tweaks, and I'm a writer and I can help you. I'd love to just give you 15, I'm available at noon on whatever, right? I'd love to. And I actually wrote back and I said, curious, is this working for you? Because it seems that it's very forward. And she wrote back and she said, not yet. I hired somebody who suggested that I use this approach.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, that's like having a first date and you come home and the person says, well, can I see your bank account, please? And I'd also like to see, like, hello, whatever happened to creating a relationship and giving first and saying, hey, Frank, is there anybody that you'd like to meet? I have over 30,000 people that are following me. I'm sure that if there's something you need, I can make an introduction for you. As opposed to, hey, Frank, I saw you have a podcast. I'd love to be a guest. I never have listened.
Yeah.
Really? Seriously? So yeah, you're right.
Well, there's just a lot of that happening. And you answered one question for me. There's somebody out there actually encouraging people to do these things. And
there's a lot of people. It's sad.
And I've asked the same question you have. My wife's always telling me, Frank, why don't you just ignore them? Why can't you just ignore people? Well, I can't. It just bugs the hell out of me. I'm sorry. Hey, does this work for you? And sometimes I feel sorry for people. Listen, if you want to know a different way, and I'm not the LinkedIn expert, but it's all relationships, right? It's all the same thing. And people just need to, if they have a need for what you have and you develop a relationship with them and you're trying to help them, you've increased the chance that they'll do business with you.
And it's so true. I had a gentleman in a networking group that I'm in, and he's a financial advisor. And financial advisors have a whole different set of rules because of their, because they have FINRA and SEC
compliance, right?
Compliance and all of that. And so we had a conversation, and I gave him a couple suggestions. I said, look, you're looking to get more appointments. You're clearly qualified. This is what I recommend. Now, he decided not to hire me because his compliance was so tight that he said, look, you know what? I know that I'm never going to get compliance to approve all your great ideas because some companies are tougher than others. I said, well, that's great. I said, here's a suggestion that I don't think is going to interfere with compliance. And it was a little bit outside of LinkedIn. It was just making a couple of, and you know what he did? He sent me a message on LinkedIn and said, Rhonda, I can't thank you enough. I got 3 appointments this week just from our one conversation.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I was like, wow. And again, you talk about relationships. Now, he's probably going to refer me to several other people. So it really starts with giving. And here's a great tip. One of the easiest things that you can do for anybody is give a recommendation, a heartfelt, real recommendation. So when somebody says they got tremendous value from you, just say, you know what? I really could use your help. I'm building up the recommendations I have on LinkedIn. I've sorely neglected it. And I would really appreciate if you would just write a recommendation for me. Just say what you just said. Now, if you do that 3 times a week, that's 12 new recommendations a month.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, hey, Frank, why should I work with you? Or they say to me, hey, Rhonda, why should I work with you? I say, you know what? I could tell you why, but go read the 175 recommendations on my profile. I promise you they didn't lie. And none of them are for my kids or my husband. So it's kind of like you want to make sure because you could click over to that. And I say, or go watch in the featured section the many, many video recommendations and testimonials that are there. Because what I tell you doesn't matter. It's what somebody else says.
Right.
And that's the power.
To wrap up here, you've given us lots of great information. What's the best place for people to get a hold of you? Through LinkedIn or I don't want to send them to your website.
Easy. Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I have a landing page. So there's a free gift on the landing page. It's the Sure, SHER method.com. And people can download the LinkedIn planner there. And there's an opportunity for them to book 30 minutes with me if they want to do a LinkedIn profile on it. I've made it so super affordable that it's kind of silly, and it's recorded. And one of the things that I do on those calls with people is most people don't know how to do privacy settings. They're actually sending people to their competitors. So in that call, I teach them how to turn it off.
Well, for our audience, I will tell you, when I met Rhonda for the first time, she looked at my site or my LinkedIn and she said, you need to do this. And I didn't realize I could. And so I did. I had a whole list of, you said, do this, 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 and this. And I think I've done 4 of the 5 that you gave me. I'm working on a 5th right now, but great suggestions. Well, I appreciate your time today. I will get thesuremethod.com in the show notes for those who are out there driving. So it'll be available for them and likewise for people when this releases on social media. But I really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. And I'll leave you with my favorite line. If you're not LinkedIn, you're left out.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.